Well, welcome back to the final lap of the program as we get to unpack international politics, precisely the crisis and politics in the Middle East region. Who better to do that for us than the former Nigerian High Commissioner to Australia, former DG of NASIM as well, Ambassador Ayola Olukanni, who joins us live on the program virtually. Thank you indeed, Ambassador, for agreeing to talk to us on the program. This indeed is a significant moment. The fact that the UK, Australia, Canada, and we hear that more countries around the world would get to endorse the need for a Palestinian state. So I wonder what your immediate reaction would be to this move. Plus, the fact that all eyes are in New York for the United Nations General Assembly. The question on the lips of some international experts is, will this fail or will this work?
Thank you very much.
You're welcome, Ambassador. Go ahead. Well, Ambassador Ayola Olukanni, former Nigerian High Commissioner to Australia, is our guest on the program as we get to talk international politics, looking at the need for the state, the need for a Palestinian state. Major countries around the world, especially in Europe, have had to endorse the need for that state. There's been the controversy as to will a one-party state provide solution, or a two-state solution, rather, a one-state or two-state solution. Would that be perhaps an end to the crisis? I understand Ambassador is back with us this morning. Ambassador, I was asking you what your immediate assessment is about this particular story, where these countries around the world have agreed perhaps on the need for a Palestinian state. Plus, the second part of my question is that all eyes are in New York for the UN General Assembly. The question on the lips of experts is that, will this fail or will this work?
Well, thank you very much. I sincerely hope you can hear me now.
Please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Ambassador. Please go ahead, sir. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for the invitation. I think this is a positive development, whatever way you want to look at it. I was on the ground of the UN General Assembly in 2012 when the state of Palestine was granted an observer status as a member of the United States, of the United Nations. 2012, now this is 2025. Implicitly 13 years after, we now see that more states have recognized the need to recognize the state of Palestine. I think it's a very, very positive development. And when you have countries like the UK, Canada, Australia, I served in Australia as High Commissioner. I know it means a lot, both for the United Nations and also for the Palestinian people. And of course, you had mentioned the question of this two-state solution. I think what has happened now is that, thank God, the issue of this two-state solution as the way out is back on the line. It was in the background before, but now it's back on the line. For me, and I think for the world and for the United Nations, I think this is the way to go. And I sincerely hope that we will have something positive along the line. So implicitly, Palestine can also sit in the General Assembly. I know that the Security Council is still there to ratify this, but it's a very, very positive development coming from these countries. And you know, of course, Nigeria has since recognized the state of Palestine. Indeed, the Palestinian ambassador was once the Dean of Diplomatic Corps. And I said that, I said kudos to the UN and to these countries that have recognized the state of Palestine.
Ambassador, the question is, there are arguments as to where exactly or what is Palestine and where exactly will Palestine be, because in terms of the boundaries, in terms of geography, it looks like the people have had to move. And all, so that's part of the arguments.
I was part and parcel of the Oslo Peace Accord. I served in Israel 1994 to 1998. That was when the Oslo Peace Accord started implementation. People like Tej El-Hassan, who we met. The three issues that are left are: one, the final borders, the status of Jerusalem, and also the refugee question. But we had a border. It is clear where it is. I mean, you have East Jerusalem is even still considered as part of the state of Palestine. And I know, and I'm not talking theory. Luckily, I was in the Palm Mission, New York. I served in 1989 in the Palm Mission, New York. Then saw the whole question of Palestine. I think it's agenda item number 130 something or something like that. And so when I got on ground in Israel, I saw it practically. The lines are clear. Resolution 242 is the reference point. We know where those lines are. The question of contesting is there. So that was why the Palestinian Authority was given the right to establish its own government at that particular period. That was what happened. Now, let us come back to where we are now. Don't forget that even the state of Israel, the man who envisioned the state, Theodore Herzl, 1897, it did not come into play. It did not come into existence until 1948. That was 52 years after when Theodore Herzl envisioned it. Now, we now have a situation in which, through what we have seen across the world, satellite television, TV, has shown us what is going on in Gaza, and it is not right. The entire world is not right. That's why these countries have taken this position. We know the borders. Don't let us just argue over the question of where the borders are. We know the borders. We know where they are, and of course, like we say, the two-state solution, of course, is going to be the issue. And I'm glad the recognition by these countries has pushed the issue to the forefront now. That let us go back to where we abandoned it. Don't forget, General Rabin was a fighter, was an IDF, a Palestinian, an Israeli commander who fought all his way. He now said, look, listen, enough of this fight. Let us have land for peace. In 1995, I was in Israel. Unfortunately, Rabin was killed. If Rabin was not killed, me and you will not be discussing what we are discussing here today. We will not be discussing what we are discussing today. But fast forward to today, the UN General Assembly is going to start. All of them have announced it. Now they will go to the podium of the UN to say, yes, we are recognizing Palestine. And let us see what can be done in terms of the final borders.
Well,
in terms of the question of this two-state solution.
I'm sure Israeli representatives will have counter-arguments as to the gray areas of the fine lines that you talk about. But let's go to other aspects of the debate, which is the concern that the recognition of the need for a Palestinian state by these traditionally Israeli allies doesn't demand the release of hostages by Hamas. How valid is this concern amid the continuing threats that Hamas may pose in the future to a Palestinian state and indeed to Israeli interests?
In the world of diplomacy, beyond the question of the fingers at each other and banging tables, a lot of discussions are going on at the back. I mean, look at what happened between and Israelis recently. You'll be shocked and discover that discussions are going on. I am showing that going on in terms of the question and issues of it. The recognition by the UK, Australia, and of course, by the time the general debate starts and the head of states of these countries come to the forefront to talk about the recognizing Palestine, a lot of things is going to change, definitely, in terms of it. I mean, let us just say that. I mean, don't forget, if you want to, 1913, the Native Act, 1948, official apartheid instituted. What happened in there? Fast forward to 1990, Mandela was released. Discussion started, 1994, South Africa, apartheid collapsed. Independent. So I envision and I see that the movement that we are seeing, I was just telling your colleague earlier, I was on the ground in the General Assembly, 2012, when they were granted an observer status. And if you go back to history, 1974, when Arafat came in with a gun and olive tree, said, don't let the olive tree drop my land. They did not allow him to talk. Eventually, the UN invited him and he spoke. Of course, eventually, we know what happened in terms of. So I see that this movement, especially in the international environment, the United Nations is the home of the human race. Do we have any other place? No. It's the UN that is the home of the human race. That's why all of us say, let us go and see how we can live quietly, peacefully with each other. Even when there were disagreements in terms of how to work and live with each other, and people refuse to obey the laws of God and they should not kill themselves. We had the convention, the Geneva Conventions on the laws of war. Let us kill ourselves in a very mild manner, in a manner that will not be savage, It's a momentous period for the state of Palestine. It's a momentous period for the United Nations. It's a momentous period for the Middle East, and it's a momentous period also. And don't forget, thousands of Israelis are on the ground every day in Tel Aviv protesting. Let us end this war so that the hostages which you talk about can, can come back home.
Now, let's take some time to reflect on Israel's activity itself. Speaking of which, the United Nations Commission Inquiry has come up with a report that tags its activities as a genocide. Some high points of the report say it bears all the markings of a genocide, causing bodily harm, preventing births, sexual and gender-based violence. What do you make of Israel's pushback? And can, Navi Pillay, who is famed for, producing reports of that nature, does she have anything to gain, by producing a report that will serve the interests of Hamas?
Let me say this. There are members of the Israeli government in the Israeli parliament who have agreed and said, look, what we are doing in Gaza is genocide, period. If you cover it very well, if you watch it very well. There are people pushing for national government in the state of Israel. Now that this is not right. I think you understand what I'm saying. Secondly, the International Court of Justice is where all of us go. The International Court of Justice has ruled already that what is going on in Gaza is genocide. But international law, I'm a student of international law. I'm also a practitioner of international law. The question and issue is, who is going to effectively handle this in terms of the question of effective implementation of international law? But the point and issue which I'm making is that it's a moot point. We all see it every day. It's not for nothing that we have the Genocide Convention. What is the way forward? The way forward is the two-state solution. Before, if you remember, people were talking about, okay, just let us have a binational state composed of Jews, and Palestinians. But people said, no, let each nation, let each group have its own nation, its own country. The state of Palestine, side by side with the state of Israel. I think that is where we are going, and that should be the focus.
Well, Ambassador, allow me just squeeze in this final question, because the Israeli government has vehemently denied these accusations. But the Prime Minister, Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu, is due to be in the U.S. in the coming days. I would like to also quote him, because he has criticized this move by countries around the world to recognize the Palestinian state. In his words, he says that you are giving a massive prize to terror. I wonder what you make of his pushback, plus the meeting with the U.S. President in the coming days, because the U.S. is yet to make any official statements about this Palestinian state.
Well, that's not surprising. That's what you'll expect in terms of the position of Mr. Netanyahu. But that's a midpoint. The respective countries have exercised their right from the perspective of sovereignty, their right to recognize who they want to recognize. Canada, UK, Australia, and all of us have done that. That is what we have seen. Definitely, when you go to the United Nations generally and you get to the podium, you say whatever you want to say in terms of your own perception. And if we go back to the history of the human race, our civilization, black people were for 400 years treated as slaves. And people were defending it. Even people were using the sacred text like the Bible to justify it. Was it right? No, it was not right. But 1948, when we had the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the UN told all countries that had colonial territories, release them, dispossess yourself, let these people govern themselves. I don't think France, of course, is all going to stand there. So I think we should not bother ourselves too much with what Mr. Netanyahu is going to say, or the meeting is going to have. Those countries in their own right. Nigeria since 1984, we have recognized Palestine now. Have we not? Yes. Don't let us bother ourselves too much about the whole question or the question of what the president of Israel, the prime minister of Israel, will say. Don't let us do that.
Ambassador,
let us keep our eyes focused.
Yeah, Ambassador, I'm told that we are absolutely pressed for time, so it's a fine place to anchor a conversation with you, former Nigerian High Commissioner to Australia, Ambassador Ayola Olukanni. Thank you indeed for your analysis on the program this morning.
Thank you very much. I feel highly honored to have been invited.
Thank you so much, sir. Well, we'll get to perhaps see. Yeah, we'll get to perhaps have him again in the coming days and months as development unfolds right there in the Middle East.
And a fine place to anchor the show today. Thank you so much for watching. Of course, we'll be back again all through the week with more for you. I am Bukola Koka.
And I am Kelly Egiga. Sunrise Daily is next. Please stay with us.